Ohio State 21, Notre Dame 10. Did you think that would be a halftime score? Maybe. Nope, that's the final score yesterday. Ohio State, let's paint the picture. If those of you who were not tuned in last week, let me paint the picture for you. Because we did it one time, we'll do it again. So Ohio State comes into this thing, right? And they're favored by a 17, even though the AP is telling you that Notre Dame is a top 5 team. And that created just this perfect storm of potential stupidity. And what we saw is Ohio State win the game, but they didn't quite win it by that amount that showed up on your ticker, on your sports book and whatnot. So Ohio State's favored by 17. They win, they don't cover, and we had the perfect confluence of events. And who could have seen it coming? Roll it. The conversation around this game has a chance to be all-time stupid. If Notre Dame loses this game, but it's close, here's how this will go. You go into the game and you got a bunch of people saying Notre Dame's overrated, Ohio State by 90, and then Ohio State wins the game, but they win it by 8. And then you've got a crowd that says, never mind, these are frauds. Buckeyes going nowhere further than the Big Ten, if even the Big Ten championship game. And that same crowd that starts dragging Ohio State for no good reason other than winning a big-time football game will simultaneously tell you, but also Notre Dame's still a choke artist in big moments. They're still overrated, even though no one rates them above Ohio State. Therefore, if they lose to them close, it should actually be a feather in their cap. You will have some really fantastically stupid conversation if Notre Dame's competitive in this game, but then loses. It's as sure as the sun rising tomorrow. Why do I know this? Because we've seen it happen with them before. Yeah, so the moral of the story is you are not wasting your time watching this show. Ohio State wins. They have to pull away late. Wasn't an 11-point game until late in the fourth quarter. And so what did we get? We got a perfect mixture on social of Ohio State is a shell of what I thought they were. Notre Dame, however, trash, totally overrated. And it's like I'm watching a fever dream, if you can watch such things. Let me tell you where I am with this. I got to watch a good chunk of this live, and I watched the rest of it this morning. My first bit of advice to you guys is keep your mouth shut until the game's over. I had a bunch of you coming at me like Notre Dame was about to win the game. Saying, where are you at now? Well, I'm sitting here watching a game that's midway through the fourth quarter, fool. So Ohio State ends up winning the game by double digits over your number 5 team in America. Now, we had them ranked 14th, rated 14th. And we will give a new JP poll Tuesday. But over 4 quarters, I saw this game so much different than most people did, apparently. Because what I look at in a vacuum is the defensive performance. And I know in my heart of hearts, if you came to me Friday and you said, hey, that Notre Dame-Ohio State game, yeah, what about it? Notre Dame's going to score 10 points. What do you think about that? I would have thought, yep, that's a slam dunk national championship contender there in Columbus, Ohio. And then they do. And people complain anyway. What are they complaining about? Well, certainly not defense, but this is a complimentary game. And the other thing that I want to remind you is you get drunk and you get amnesia every single summer. Those of you who participate in the offseason, you allow preview magazines to convince you that robots play this game. We don't have a preseason, and these dudes are 19 and 20 years old. And some of them just left for the NFL last year, and new ones take their place. This is what real football looks like. Same thing happened in the Cincinnati-Arkansas game yesterday. Everything didn't flow perfectly. All those little lines on a play sheet didn't go exactly how it was supposed to, and your wins and losses look so pretty in the preseason, and then it comes game time, and things don't flow. It's a little clunky. That's football, man. There are 22 moving pieces per play. Occasionally, things get sideways. And occasionally, it just doesn't work out how you think it should work out. Also, the other team's got really good players too, and they're allowed to try. So what happened yesterday is I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I cannot believe Jim Knowles made this big a difference at defensive coordinator for Ohio State this quickly. Last year, they had all the offense in the world, and we kept waiting for the defense, kept waiting for the defense, kept waiting for the defense. Let me tell you where I'm totally comfortable with Ohio State. I'm totally comfortable with them playing top-notch defense and waiting for offense to come around. Because when I got the pieces that I got on that offense, and I got the dude pulling the trigger over there on the sideline in Ryan Day, who I know he's a proven commodity, can get it done, I'll be happy to wait for the offense if I know I got the defense at Ohio State. Anyone who looked at them yesterday and thinks that's going to be the offensive product they're trotting out on the field in November is high on bath salts. Here's what will happen Since we had to be prophetic 1.0, let's go ahead and add the 2.0. Come early November, the same crowd writing them off is going to be all the way back in on Scarlet and Gray Kool-Aid, and they'll be saying something like this. If this Ohio State team played that Notre Dame team they played in week 1 with this offense now, they'd beat them by 35. And you may be right, because I think there's coming, eventually in this year, a point in time where Ohio State looks pretty scary. Because I know you'll have a more dynamic offense down the road maybe to face than Notre Dame, and maybe someone will test you more, but if you didn't see night and day difference defensively from them yesterday, then at any point in the last couple of years, there is no other explanation other than you have not watched Ohio State. I watch virtually every game they play with anyone with a pulse on the other side of the field. Totally different team, which always amazes me. It amazes me that you can have a lot of the same players. At this level now, you can have a lot of the same players, and the difference in bringing in one guy and then letting him assemble his staff, but really one guy spearheading a difference. They haven't played a football game since last year, guys. They had a spring game, and they had spring practices, and they had summer conditioning, which the coaches are barely participating in, and then they have fall camp. There's that big a difference already, which shows you what Mike Gundy had stowed away in Stillwater, Oklahoma all these years. So yeah, Jim Knowles validated himself through 1 week. That's a Broyles Award candidate there, if I've ever seen one. I would be strongly encouraged if I were an Ohio State fan. I'd be encouraged if I were Notre Dame. What you saw from Notre Dame is what you've seen many times in this spot. You've seen them be more competitive maybe than the point spread says they should, but whether they cover or not, you've seen them be competitive before. Like you've seen physically them match up, but then ultimately what's the story? They don't have the skill on the perimeter. They don't have the dynamic quarterback play. And so while they're good athletically, 1 to 85, there are those specific stars on the roster they don't have, and they can't sustain for 4 quarters. It's no different than you saw last night. So you've got a good team with a ceiling on it that is too low to beat a team like Ohio State unless Ohio State does them favors. But I mean, I look at Notre Dame, and I've said since the beginning of the season, now we're only 1 week in, and I'll continue to reiterate, if this team right here wins 9 games this year, and they couple that with the kind of recruiting class that Marcus Freeman is putting together, they're going to be fine, they're going to be fine, they're going to be fine. Now, I don't know with that collection ultimately how high I'll expect them to climb this year, but I mean, I thought they represented themselves very well. I've already seen people try to paint trends with Marcus Freeman. Guy's been a head coach there for 2 games. One of them was a bowl game. And you're already talking about how he struggles in second halves. Okay. Personally, I'm going to need a little more than a 2-game sample size there, but that's fine. Third down last night, I think, decided this game. Ohio State, 7 of 13. Notre Dame, 3 of 13. Total plays as a result, Notre Dame, 48 total plays. Ohio State, 69 total plays. Nice. It's a game of extremes sometimes. And especially, when you're only running 48 plays, a couple more third down conversions, in a very close game, 1-possession game. I mean, Notre Dame had the lead in this thing in the second half. That's what makes the difference. But I'll tell you what Notre Dame does have to improve on. If they're going to reach that 9-win or 10-win type season, they can't be running the ball for 2.5 yards per carry. They had, 30 carries last night for 76 yards. When you've got a new quarterback and one who does not have that dynamic presence like maybe an Anthony Richardson does, you got to be able to run the ball. And they really couldn't last night. And that is yet another tip of the cap to Jim Knowles and the Ohio State defense. This team right here, this team in Columbus, Ohio, you saw their starting point. That's what I believe. You saw their entry point to the 2022 season. As Meemaw said many times, a foolish man draws conclusions in week 1. A wise man makes observations in week 1. Thank you, Meemaw. I couldn't have said it better myself.